Those of you that don't know Glasgow, one thing you'll love about when you come to the city is the Glasgow murals, and you'll see through all my slides, I have these striking, iconic images, most of which actually, I think, Stephanie, is that right, are in and around Strathclyde University campus. This really wonderful, dynamic campus is being reborn constantly, particularly through COVID, lots of new shiny buildings, an amazing sports centre, very alive space, smack bang in the city centre. And this little Robin mural is 2 minutes from the Lord Hope building, where hopefully, fingers crossed, COVID permitting, we will meet face to face in January. So what is criminology and why is it important? Now, one of the things I want you to think about just in this webinar today is that societies across the world, never has there been a more pressing time to look at the human needs of people, be it education, particularly health, and safety from crime. Now, we'll have all seen, those of you who are in the UK or not, the tragic cases that have come out recently during COVID of children dying, poverty escalation, food bank increases, gender-based violence increasing, harms to children and young people arising from the hiddenness of COVID and the fact that police and social work services haven't been able to do their jobs in public safety. And so there's a real pressing need, particularly in the modern era, to tackle some of these questions in a fair and equitous way. And that's really what social policy is about. So what criminology and social policy do is they seek to examine these global challenges to create a more socially just and fair society through looking at institutions, crime and punishment, and the impact particularly on criminalisation on societies nationally and globally. Now, for me, I'm a Scottish woman, but I don't do work in Scotland. I do work in Russia and the former Soviet Union. We've got other colleagues who do work globally and plenty of colleagues that do work in Glasgow, Scotland and beyond. And the thing that unites all of us is that when you put people through a criminal justice process, you generate more harm, not just for society and for victims, but also for perpetrators of crime, who often will come out of a criminal justice process more scarred and potentially more harmful for others as well. So we need criminology and social policy for governments and national authorities and local authorities, for family, for civil society, the market, international organisations, to understand what their role is in providing responses around crime. Why is it, for example, in Scotland, that we don't criminalise children in the same way that happens in England and Wales? Why is it in Scandinavia that many Scandinavian countries have very low prison population rates, whereas in the UK, ours is the highest in Europe? Why is it that in America, it took 100 years to put 1 million people in prison, and then another 10 years to put in another 1 million? These are the questions we'll be discussing about our cultural attachment to crime and punishment. Child education, poverty, housing, neighbourhood renewal, income levels, unemployment, training, these are all urgent criminological and social policy questions. So what we really want to do is to identify how we reduce the harmful effects of criminal justice on escalating inequality. Now, I should warn you, this course is not a course that analyses serial killers, CSI Miami, CSI New York, America's Most Wanted. We're interested in how we respond to crime. Why is it some societies have less crime and some have lots? And so we're critical, we are intersectional feminists, we're abolitionists, we are absolutely privileging diversity and rights consciousness at the front of all the teaching we do. And what that does for us is it opens up a vista of opportunities for you to look at music, poetry, art, technology, visual sociology, and we'll be employing a lot of that really fun stuff in our teaching methods as well. So a big part of what we tell you and what we teach you is that crime is defined by socioeconomic status, by race, ethnicity, migration, gender, socioeconomic status, gender, sexual orientation, disability and age. Here's another mural. It's a little bit of a crime mural, but I thought I'd stick that in. Okay, in semester 1 in this course, here is what you'll study. You join us in January, which is a non-typical start date. You will study the following modules: qualitative research methods, the context of criminal justice, which is core, contemporary issues in criminology, which is core, and possibly an additional option of approaches to welfare, past and present. This is where the innovation in this course really lies. The qualitative research methods is essential for you to study your dissertation over summer. In that course, you will learn how to do research. You will learn a range of different research skills to do with gathering research evidence that will help you conduct, hopefully, if your ethics allow and if COVID allows, empirical work or good high quality desk-based work. The qualitative research methods are the who, why, what, and how of research. So you'll learn things like surveys, interviewing, focus groups, and a whole range of different innovation and field research processes. In the context of criminal justice, this is led by Professor Beth Weaver, who is an outstanding scholar looking at critical social work studies and how policy unfolds in specific criminal justice contexts. So she will be giving you impactful, user-friendly, user group-led criminal justice contexts. She's also joined by Dr. Gemma Flynn, who's on our course, who is a comedian, a social policy scholar, and a criminologist who is brilliant and who will bring a lot of really good cutting-edge innovation in how we look at the context of where criminal justice happens, why that matters in terms of the ripple of outcomes. In contemporary issues of criminology, this is me. You will learn all the nuts and bolts of the key criminological processes, concepts, theories, ideas, and frameworks. We will discuss everything from labeling to queer theory, to Black Lives Matter, to riots, protests, gender-based violence, to media crime, and lots of things in between. So these are your core classes from January till the end of March. You have the option of also studying a social policy course led by Dr. Chris Deeming on welfare systems, past and present, which really looks at the global welfare context, and that will help you locate the contexts of justice and understanding the theorizations of crime in the biggest issue of all, which is the escalation of inequality which arises from criminal justice and criminalization. In semester 2, so over summer, you will have your dissertation. In semester 2, September to December, you will study our next core option. If you excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of my tea because I've got a bit of a sore throat. Another brilliant course led by Dr. Cara Jardim called Prisons, Power and Punishment. This is a great course looking at global society's deep cultural attachment to incarceration. So Cara will look not just at the impact of imprisonment on offenders, families, communities, but on the impact on policy. And why is it that penal policy remains such a controversial, contested, complex, legal, cultural, social territory to understand what is a 2-year sentence, what is a 3-year sentence, and why these things matter. And it links very well with the core modules I've outlined here in semester 1. You will also have the option of the following. So if in semester 1 you do take approaches to welfare, L5975, if you take the 4 modules, you will take one of the following modules. You will take Perspectives on Social Research, which is Professor Ian Greener's course, which is on the philosophy of social science. How do we produce knowledge? And what does knowledge mean? And what is the role of the self in knowledge production? Or you can take Dr. Melanie McCarry's course, Welfare Concepts and Ideas. Now, it's important to emphasize here, you can take L5981 or L5976 if you've taken the 4 in semester 1. If you decide in semester 1 that you're just going to stick to the core, L9209, L5988 and L5987, if you stick to those 3, you have to do the 3 in semester 2, which are L8914, L5981 and L5976. You have to otherwise take 2. What you get from these courses is a real flavour, excuse me, I'm just going to carry on, a real flavour of the diversity of social policy, but with an edge of criminology coming through all the time, thinking, why do social problems arise? How do policy responses form? And what are the criminal justice policy responses in particular? Our teaching approach as things are lecture recordings, a mixture of recordings of lectures, pre-recorded materials with some live online, possibly face-to-face lectures, but each module will run their module differently, excuse me. So we can't say for certain right now what you'll be getting. We are planning for some face-to-face teaching, some pre-recorded, some live online, and some seminar live to live. In my course and in Professor Weaver's course, you will have pre-recorded lectures and in-person face-to-face seminars. But we don't, as of yet, know what others are offering because the picture is changing with the new Omicron variant and COVID potentially changing things again. Where do you find out everything? When you register for the degree, you will be given a My Place login details, and that's where we post everything and anything on the Masters in Criminology. You will have access to all the lecture materials, all the reading materials, all the slides, all the pre-recorded lectures, and any additional teaching resources. We'll be using Padlets, which will give you lots of visual stuff to comment on also. Who we are before I pass over. We're a team of staff at all career stages, as you can see from here, in criminology and social policy. Professor Beth Weaver, on the top left, is an outstanding world-leading academic looking at community and social justice. She is a former practitioner in social work, and she also works in the area of co-production of knowledge with those who've experienced the harms of criminal justice. Below Beth is probably the most important person in the course, Laura Piacentini. Laura will be the course administrator. She's the go-to woman for all your administration needs to do with your course, any issues around attendance, any issues around Pegasus with registering sickness. Laura administers the course and works with me. Next to Laura is Gemma Flynn. Dr. Gemma Flynn is a fantastic scholar. She's the woman I mentioned who's the stand-up comedian, who's also an abolitionist, a critical feminist. She's on Twitter. She's a very funny woman, but also really dynamic academic. Who's at the cutting edge of teaching innovation as well, having lots of experience of teaching in criminology and research methods at Edinburgh Law School at the Edinburgh University. Cara Jardine, as I mentioned, is a brilliant prison sociologist who's done lots of work on families and sibling relationships in prison. Then there's me, Laura Piacentini. I'm Professor of Criminology, and I have lots and lots of experience in teaching criminology, and I do research all over the world in prisons. Below me is Dr. Melanie McCarry, who is a world-leading scholar of gender-based violence, a critical feminist scholar who looks at male violence against women and girls. She's just started a brilliant study looking at violence against women committed by nightclub security in the UK. Then we have Sébastien Leforton, who is Spanish-French academic who works at GPP, Government and Public Policy at Strathclyde. He will be leading on the qualitative research methods. He's a brilliant academic in another department that we're working with, and you will do his core class in semester 1. Next to him is Professor Ian Greener, who is a professor of social policy. Ian leads on the perspectives of social research. He's another great academic who's a real kind of research methods geek, interested in the philosophy of social science. How do we write ourselves into the story of research? And below him is Dr. Chris Deeming, who will lead on, if you take it, approaches to welfare in semester 1. Chris is a world-leading academic looking at the welfare systems across the European Union, and he's got brilliant teaching materials. He reports very highly favourable feedback from all students on that course. A final mural of Billy Connolly, Glasgow's famous son. As I say here, you're going to learn from a community of active, engaged, critical research scholars who are passionate and compassionate about criminology and social policy. You will also work with a team and an international collaboration team who are international, world-leading, multi-award winning and interdisciplinary. We are linked in with the Scottish Centre for Crime and Justice Research, which is a consortium of Scottish universities, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Strathclyde and Stirling, and a PGT and postgraduate community, which are really dynamic with tons of events on every year online, some face-to-face. Also, we are passionate about equality and diversity. We have a very strong gender balance with mostly women teaching in the course and across early career stages. We are non-hierarchical, we are abolitionist, and we are privileged LGBTQ+ and the gender diversity and acute cultural diversity needs of Black and Asian minority ethnic students and staff. You will see energy and experiencing privileging the status of hidden voices at all the teaching that we do. Place matters, of course. Glasgow, seeing this as a Glaswegian, is a perfect location to study social policy and social problems. We have massive number of third sector groups working in Glasgow, NGOs. We are in the west coast of Scotland, which is an acutely deprived area of the UK. And because of that, we have the energy and commitment and the charity work and the activism in the city around criminal justice equality and minimising criminal justice and privileging social justice. When you come to do this course, we want you to write yourself into the story of this course. We want you to experience what it's like to study complex, dynamic, misunderstood subject of criminology. And we want you to come having read all the texts. There is massive amount of literature that you'll get. We will target you to reading. We want you to bring your curious mind. We want you to develop your writing and, more importantly, your criminological imagination. This is what we can expect from you, and this is what you can expect from us. Finally, what will COVID-19 mean? We are working, as Stephanie knows, really behind the scenes to make sure that we deliver for you a really full teaching experience. But we can't guarantee that we will give you a face-to-face experience fully, but we will give you some face-to-face teaching should the COVID rules allow. We need to follow the national government, Scottish Government guidance and the Strathclyde University guidance. But as things stand, we are expecting to deliver some face-to-face, but this could change any moment really with the guidance. Our modules are flexible. They are available to you to harness your interest. The style of delivery will vary from module lead to module lead, but we will follow the university guidance as best we can. When we meet through Zoom, we will follow the protocols of engagement on Zoom, but you'll be well prepared for that. And the same protocols will be followed when we meet face-to-face. But what you will definitely get is a welcoming, stimulating, enjoyable, fun, dynamic team of people who can't wait to meet you and get cracking on all things criminology and social policy.